Yes, indeed. It's a dynamic industry out there, but we can help you keep pace. Join us. Get your swag on.
How do we determine the status of a refugee?
The refugee status determination is only a process. The fact that you have gone through a refugee status determination doesn't make you any less or more a refugee. A refugee is a refugee because of certain circumstances. In Nigeria, we have, with the assistance of United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, being the international actor in asylum issues, have developed refugee status determination. It is also enshrined in our law, in the law that established the National Commission for Refugees, that there shall be statutory committees. We have the first committee, that's the eligibility committee, which is chaired by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, deriving its membership from the immigration, the office of the vice president. We are the secretariat, and UNHCR sits as observer. So we have, over the years, been developing the capacity of such a committee. And being the secretariat, the commission also have refugee status determination officers that receive application, process application, and then table them before the committee. The committee will do their determination and then forward to the Federal Commissioner according to law.
So what have been your challenges in addressing the plight of the internally displaced people and also the refugees?
Well, to begin with, it's the spontaneous nature of, displacement. How, without warning, you find a group of people displaced, and then with the refugees, it's a lot more manageable because we have an established asylum regime internationally. We have also acquired experience as a commission working with refugees. But this internal displacement is relatively new to Nigeria, to the whole world indeed. So we also have just had the Kampala Convention 2010 and just ratified by Nigeria in 2012. So it is very, very challenging to see how you can come up even with frameworks, coordination frameworks, Why? Because with the IDPs they are citizens of the country. They have freedom of movement, right to work. So you find that constantly that it's like a struggle between humanitarian work, development issues, human rights, constitutional issues. So it's constantly a challenge. That's number one. Number two, the issue of funding. Like I said, it's difficult even to see the funding. Now, for instance, who is in charge?
Nigeria has ratified some of this convention. The Kampala Convention of 2009 seems to be a famous convention in Nigeria's history in addressing the plight of refugees. So how relevant is this convention to the peculiar situation in Nigeria?
We haven't yet domesticated it, but it's in the process. It's been ratified. It's in the process of being domesticated. And we hope the Attorney General will facilitate the domestication process. It is very, very important because for the first time, Africa, has come up with a solution, that is facing its continent. We, the African continent, or we say even globally, people who are just used to refugees. And we have all of these instruments protecting refugees. Like I said, we have also achieved some kind of experience handling refugees globally, nationally, regionally. But then increasingly, we have more IDPs in the continent than refugees. Even in Nigeria, we have like 2 million IDPs, but we have only 2,000 refugees. So this is something that the African Union decided to say, let us come up with a solution. It's quite revolutionary because it's the first of its kind globally. And it went through a gradual process, of including all member states. We were even there to represent the country from the drafting. So from the drafting stage, you know that the principles behind internal displacement is to ensure that people are not displaced. People who have lost their habitats in their country are not displaced. Whereas people who are handicapped to say, we know what to do with refugees because the law says this and that, but we don't have a law that will now make people, that will make, countries responsible for this group of vulnerable people.
Are you not worried about the security implication of the plight of refugees in Nigeria? Would you consider them as a security risk?
It is a very big security risk, especially if solution is not provided to IDPs. When you have people that are very vulnerable, maybe displaced as a result of conflict or displaced as a result of natural disasters, and they are virtually ignored, some inevitably will, some of them, not all, could break laws. And when you have camps too, camps are not the best, to keep a person, a citizen of a country in a camp and giving him handouts is not the best of scenarios. It's dehumanizing. You can have all kinds of evils in the camps. You could have, for instance, child trafficking, child abuse. You could have militarization, of young people, military recruitment. So it is a very, very big security risk. So displacement, is somehow related to insecurity.
Now let's take a look at the plight of Nigerian migrants in Niger Republic, Chad, and Cameroon. Report shows we have about 60,000 migrants seeking refuge in these three countries. How does the National Refugee Commission intend to address the plight of these migrants? Find out when we come back. Join us again. Do we have security checks for the refugees?
Yes, we do have security checks. Like I said, if you have like a mass influx, it's a different matter. When you have a mass influx of refugees, you definitely keep them, at the border, and you have to now check them. But when you have people trickling in, of course, you also have your own checks, and you do also your background check, country of origin information checks. And then, for the refugees coming into our country, it's not much of a big risk because we have now maybe just 2,000 refugees, and they did not come in large numbers.
Which would you consider a bigger challenge, the IDPs or the refugees?
The IDPs are a much bigger challenge.
How would you assess the humanitarian condition in the displaced camps in Nigeria?
We don't have refugee camps in Nigeria. Since 2008, the federal government ordered the closure of Oru refugee camp. And that even the Oru refugee camp was an open camp. It wasn't like a typical camp where you have, in some countries, where you have detention facilities, and they call them camps. But these were like accommodation established for refugees from ECOWAS, Liberians and Sierra Leoneans in Ogun State refugee camp. So it was now called a refugee camp. It wasn't like they were denied movement or right of work. So the federal government ordered the closure because the circumstances where the people were given asylum ceased to exist, and they were encouraged to integrate into the country or return back to their country.
Now, could you give us a data representation of the number of refugees, IDPs, and also migrants